The following program contains political views and commentary by the program host and guests, which do not necessarily reflect the position or opinions of any network, cable system, or internet broadcast provider upon which this program may appear. Volusia County Issues is an informative talk format broadcast that deals with the political issues that affect the citizens of Volusia County, Florida. Each show will focus on subjects of interest to the residents of the area and foster a climate of healthy debate with special guests to discuss the topic.
This morning we have with us Margie Patchett of Volusia Tax Reform, Frank Bruno, our county chairman. Welcome both of you, and thank you very much for coming to see us today.
Thanks for having us.
The issue we're going to be discussing this morning will be the purchase of the Leffler property, correct?
Correct.
It seems that the county we paid, what, $28.8 million?
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to discuss the pros and cons of this.
Okay.
And Frank, would you like to start out?
Well,
Tell us a little bit about that purchase and why we did it.
I'm very happy to start out with that, to be quite honest with you. I thought it was a very important piece of property for the county to acquire. We have been looking at the conservation corridor. When I first ran for the county chairmanship, I said that we needed to make sure that we stopped the growth that was coming from the Deltona area all the way over to the Edgewater area. And we had the conservation corridor, which is right down in the center of our county. And by the way, it is part of one of the 7 jewels of the whole state of Florida. That's come about 200 miles of corridor that comes down. It protects the wildlife and everything in the center of the county. We've also used Florida Forever money. We used Volusia Forever money. We've used St. Johns River Water Management District money and other partners to work with us to acquire the conservation area there. The conservation area is so important, again, for that wildlife corridor, to stop the domino effect also of the development from the Deltona area all the way over from the west side of the county all the way over to the east side of the county. And that protects that area for forever for the citizens of the state of Florida, not only for Volusia County. I serve also for the last 2 years as the Congress of Regional Leaders chairman, and that is the 7 counties in Central Florida. And that's 86 cities and a coalition of 10 school boards. And everybody made the corridor a priority to protect that corridor for a lot of different reasons. As I mentioned, the wildlife, to preserve that area there, to stop the development from occurring. We don't want another Miami Beach in Volusia County where the development goes completely across the different counties. The other thing is for water resource areas. The Leffler property has Deep Creek that goes right through that property. It was important for the county to buy that because St. Johns River Water Management District put an edict, so to speak, on all the counties in that district, saying that you have to have other options than just to drill for water. And we were looking at partnering with Seminole County with their plant over there. We were looking at the possibility of of taking water out of the St. Johns River. We were looking at a whole lot of different things that were going to be very costly to the West Volusia residents. This gives us another option to where we can have a reservoir on this property. We also would be able to do some more water drilling on this property. That is so important because if we had gone any other way, it would be very costly, and the rates, water rates in West Volusia probably would have cost the West Volusia citizens more than what they're paying in taxes right now, and that's a scary situation. So the St. Johns River Water Management District looked at this property. They, and by the way, it was on the priority list of the Florida Forever program, Volusia Forever program, and as well as St. John's Management District. St. John's Management District did pick up some other properties, the Carter property and other properties, which they paid, by the way, $6,000 an acre, the same amount of money that we paid for this. But I think that we get a bonus on this because we use it also as a water source in the future.
I have a question on that. They refer to this as a creek. How much water does this thing produce, the creek? Because to me, a creek is 4 or 5 feet wide.
Yeah, it's the potential of what you can do there. You can divert water in there, you can, and have a reservoir. You know, we can't, as I said, you're going to have, like other communities have done, Brevard County, they have worked with Osceola County and other counties to have reservoirs so that they have a surface water available rather than drilling down. This gives us the opportunity to look to those types of things in the future.
Margie, you have some issues with the purchase of this property.
Right. We don't have an issue with you actually purchasing the property for the conservation corridor. All how it came about. We feel that there wasn't perhaps full and proper disclosure and transparency in the purchase of this. It appears, Chairman Bruno, that the county has been planning to purchase this property for quite some time. Is that correct?
For many years. Actually, we were looking at the property in the 1990s. And then, of course, you know, they had a new developer that came in and wanted to work with Deltona on an annexation, and they wanted to build like 10,000 homes in that area, plus have some businesses and have an outlet to 415 in that area.
Was that PKM?
I believe that's correct.
Okay. Our concern is, since the county's been planning on purchasing this for years, why wasn't this purchase in the 2010 budget then?
Well, you got to understand that you can't purchase something with, and we don't use eminent domain. And unless you have a willing seller, you can't purchase it. So it happened to come together at this particular point. I think it had a lot to do with the economy. I think it had a lot to do with the fact that no development's going on. They can't sell houses and everything else. You got to remember, this was a $70 million property that the county was able to purchase for $28,800,000.
But this is the largest land purchase in the history of Volusia County.
Correct.
And what I hear you saying then is that you just immediately jumped on it without full and proper planning by the staff and everything?
Let me just tell you, that's totally wrong, because we've been working on this. We've been working with the owners, the Lefflers themselves. We've been working with their attorneys. We've been working with the state of Florida. I told you that it was on a priority list. They had indicated at one time that they were willing to sell the property. The problem was, we weren't willing to buy it at $70 million, and we couldn't even get a partner to come in on the deal. We try to use partners when we
isn't
purchase
this property the subject of a lawsuit with the county as well because of that?
It was a lawsuit with the county because of the annexation. And we won the annexation. They just appealed that annexation, and it continued to go on. When we purchased the property, the lawsuit went away at the same time. That was a subject. So that was a condition of the sale.
So this was basically the settlement of a lawsuit? Is that what I hear you saying?
No, not at all. This was more important than a settlement that happened to just be a side issue on this property. We have always said that we want to try to protect. You got to remember, this is in the heart. This is the heart of the conservation corridor. It was always an interest of the county of Volusia to protect the heart of the and stop the domino effect. If this had been developed as it was indicated to be developed with almost 10,000 homes and businesses and everything else, that also opened up that annexation to another piece of property, to another piece of property, and to another piece of property, which would have diminished the conservation corridor and taken away from that the jewel that we have in the center of the county.
See, the question I think I have and the citizens have is that, number one, it was voted on at a council meeting right after the election, basically in a lame duck session. And then you've been planning to purchase this for years. Why wasn't it, in the 2010 budget? Or if you'd been planning to purchase it and now you've purchased it through the Forever Program, which the Forever Program was a 20-year program that the citizens voted on in 2000.
Right.
And they stated in that they didn't want it to incur more than $40 million worth of debt. But if you've been planning to purchase this and you knew it was eventually going to be purchased, why wasn't it in some type of budget, number one? Number two, why didn't it go to a referendum of the voters to increase the debt for the Forever Program?
I have to correct a lot of things that you have to say there.
Well, I just have questions I'm trying to find out.
And I can understand that, to be quite honest with you. And first of all, I do want to say the Forever Program is fabulous. We've got, we're nationally known for the Forever Program. We actually started buying land and was a model for a lot of other counties and states in our nation. So we are used as a model, and also the fact that there's a lot of negotiations that go on with properties, and even within their family, they weren't sure if they were going to sell it, they weren't going to sell it, and we can't predict if we're going to buy something until we know for sure that there's a willing seller to sell it to the county. It just happened to come together at that point. I think it had something to do, to be quite honest with you, with number one, that there was no development going on.
Well, there couldn't be.
Yeah.
Because of the regulations.
And also the economy and everything else didn't dictate that they would do that. Second of all, they also were looking at the federal government as to what they were doing with tax issues coming up on the 1st of January. Now, they resolved those issues, but the Leffler families didn't know that was going to happen, and if the new tax codes would have went into effect, I think that had something to do with the timing on them saying, hey, county, let's go ahead and try to get this done so we don't lose more, the family doesn't lose more money in this
Excuse me,
situation.
explain what you mean by the domino effect, because I'm sure a lot of the audience doesn't understand that in order to annex property, cities needing to annex property, that has to be a contiguous line.
Well, I think you did a good job saying it right there.
There you go.
That's exactly the truth. One annexation of a piece of property leads into another annexation of another piece of property because it becomes contiguous to that piece of property. And so if you develop this piece of property, it automatically pretty much allows the next piece of property to capitalize on what was allowed on the previous piece of property so that they can develop their property. And that is a continuing situation that could have affected our county and have that growth that I was talking about from the west side of the county all the way to the east side of the county. And I'm sure that nobody wanted to see us be developing all that property in between.
This is pretty much what Port Orange and Ormond Beach are trying to do, trying to go as far west as they can go.
And I'll have to tell you that even at one time we thought that Edgewater was going to come over, and then you have also the property down on the Brevard and Volusia County line that could be folded into this, and then with this property over on the Osteen area, that's why we did we tried to protect that area by putting in the overlay zone for the Osteen Deltona area to protect the Osteen area from the overdevelopment.